Hello, my name is Collection Connoisseur. I collect digital thingamabobs and video games, and yesterday I played Ori and the Blind Forest. This is my final episode for my Ori and the Blind Forest playthrough, and as such, there are several things I want to talk about in this video. Most of it will be about my Deathless run on the 1 life difficulty, the difficulty mode where if you die, you have to start back at the beginning of the game. But before we get there, I'll start with some odds and ends. There are 4 achievements in Ori and the Blind Forest that I hadn't collected before this video. 2 of those 4 are unrelated to completing the game without dying. The first of those to start with is Light Burst Master, which one gets by defeating 50 enemies with the Light Burst skill. So I booted up my normal difficulty save file, the one in which I had collected everything in the game, including all of the skills, and I went around pelting enemies with little balls of light until, lo and behold, the achievement appeared. That leaves one other non-Deathless achievement, Flying Fury. Not my most hated achievement, but certainly my second most hated achievement in this game. The text of Flying Fury is, kill 3 enemies without touching the ground. As you probably know, I have accomplished this feat numerous times, but I decided to try again. I spent about 30 minutes going around defeating groups of enemies while in the air in various ways. Now, as a connoisseur of digital collections, if I didn't have this YouTube series, I would have stopped there. I would have stopped before that point, and not collected this achievement. Part of being a connoisseur is knowing which things are worth having and which are not worth having. But for you, the viewers out there, I continued. And after I had already stopped the recording, I got the achievement. I don't know what I did differently that time versus the other times, versus the other 30 minutes. I know that I stomped on some blob enemies, but beyond that, I don't know, and I'm actually sad that I do not have accurate video footage. There are 2 final achievements that I have not yet presented in this video series. 2 achievements which I think of as one achievement. Immortal and Unhinged. Immortal is for completing the whole game without dying, and Unhinged is for completing the game on 1 life difficulty, which requires completing the whole game without dying. The rest of the footage you will see in this video are recordings from my attempts. I live streamed my first 2 attempts at these achievements, and if you'd like to watch them in full, now is a good time to pause and check the description of this video, where there are links to both archived streams. I will be talking about what happened in those attempts in this video, so it is up to you whether you'd like to watch the full versions before listening to my summary. Everyone that's still here is here for the summary? Okay, great. In my first attempt, I collected the water vein from Gumo and made it through the Jinzo tree. Now, I've skipped a large portion of the game with that simple sentence, but although it is a large portion, it is a portion in which I had very little fear of dying. On the way to the Jinzo tree, I took a few risks to collect extra energy cells and life cells, but not many risks. You can see at the bottom of the screen that I have 6 blue dots and 7 green dots. You start the game with 0 and 3, so that means I have collected a total of 10 energy and life cells before entering the Jinzo tree. Most of those I got without any real danger of dying, and the couple that did contribute some risk to the run weren't that risky. I had to dodge a couple of crushers, I think, and a deadly energy beam. No real problem. At least, no problem that compares to the problems that we will encounter later in the run. After completing the Jinzo tree is where I decided to get risky. Instead of going into the Misty Woods to continue the plotline and the quests, I went into the Blackroot Burrows to find the Dash and Light Burst skills. I wanted those skills because both can be used to reduce the risk late in the run. Dash can be used when escaping Kuro at the very end of the game, as well as a wave of lava in the final dungeon Mount Horu. Light Burst can be used in the Forlorn Ruins to collect a couple of keystones in much safer ways than you can without the Light Burst skill. And both skills provide Ori with more movement options, allowing me to more easily avoid dangers, especially spikes, lava, and lasers. Unfortunately, getting these skills requires traversing the most dangerous non-dungeon parts of the map, the Blackroot Burrows and the Lost Grove, including this particular section where Ori is carrying a ball of light. Carrying that ball significantly reduces Ori's movement options, meaning that it's harder for me to avoid danger. In addition, there are deadly lasers that Ori has to avoid while bouncing on these little blue trampoline things, carefully not landing on the next trampoline, which would propel Ori into another deadly laser. This is where the first run ended. And just a reminder, when one of these runs ends, I have to start over from the very beginning. So in my second run, I got the water vein again, I completed the Jinzo tree again, and I decided that Dash and Light Burst are still worth getting, even though doing so ended the previous run. In a challenge run like this one that can just suddenly end, you want the risky parts to be toward the beginning of the run, not toward the end. And that's what getting these two skills does. I'm trading away some risk late in the game for some risk earlier in the game. And that is a trade I am very willing to make. I made it through that part, but don't get too comfortable, because on the way to the Light Burst skill, there are a couple of instant death beams that I have to dash past. Timing my dash poorly here could end the run, and those two dangers are closely followed by the iconic, beautiful, and deadly laser windmill. This laser windmill has killed me several times in previous playthroughs, but I was careful and made it through. Then of course, I had to make it back through the instant death lasers in reverse, just to leave Blackroot Burrows. Now so far, I have focused exclusively on the dangers in Ori and the Blind Forest that kill Ori in a single hit, and barely mentioned enemies and spikes, which can also end the run by dealing enough damage to Ori. There are actually only 2 times in all of my attempts that I can remember almost dying due to damage. The first was going back up to exit the Blackroot Burrows, and the second was a section of the Misty Woods with some purple tentacle monsters. Both of those happened in my second attempt, and neither ended the run. There are so many abilities and life pickups and pathing options that help prevent Ori from dying due to damage that possibility didn't really hang over my head in my Deathless runs. This is also a good time to point out that 1 life difficulty is not based on the hard difficulty like I thought it would be. Life shards and energy shards drop occasionally from enemies and vegetation. That significantly reduces the resource management needs for blue and green dots. Also, enemies inflict normal damage, not double damage like they do on hard. All of that means that dying from damage was not truly much of a concern for me in my Deathless runs. After somewhat easily collecting the Gumon seal, I went to the Forlorn Ruins. In this dungeon, I used Light Burst to collect keystones safely, and I used Dash to make it over spikes without having to carry a ball over the spikes. In the Forlorn Ruins, there are 4 places with instant kill lasers. I managed to time my jumps correctly at all 4 places, meaning that the run gets to continue. I also completed the escape sequence at the end of the dungeon without a hitch. This level was surprisingly easy for me. It has killed me so many times in my non-Deathless challenge runs, but in my Deathless runs I have conquered it without a problem. And this marks 2/3 of the game complete without dying. All that's left is the Sunstone and Mount Horu. Sorrow Pass leads up to the Sunstone. There aren't many instant death dangers up Sorrow Pass, and they are mostly easy to avoid if you know that they are there, which I do. Also, I've got a trick in my back pocket. I finally figured out the exploit that I failed to use in my speedrun and on my hard run in Sorrow Pass. Breaking this barrier here with this enemy's projectile makes Sorrow Pass a breeze. Get it? Because you ride the wind up, it's like a breeze. Anyway, what this exploit does is skip a door that requires 4 keystones. So I simply didn't collect the most dangerous keystones in Sorrow Pass. I got the Sunstone, leaving only 1 of 6 story events remaining. And this is on my 2nd attempt ever for this challenge. Before breaching Mount Horu, I did go around and collect more energy cells, life cells, and ability cells. Not all of them by any means, but enough that I had 11 blue dots, 13 green dots, and almost all of Ori's abilities unlocked. Unfortunately, none of those really help with Mount Horu. I mean, they help some. Getting all of those makes it less likely that I would die from enemies. But damage from enemies is not the chief danger of Mount Horu. That would be lava. Or magma. I'm not sure whether the hot stuff in the volcano is lava or magma. I looked up some definitions. Magma is molten rock under the Earth's crust. Lava is molten rock expelled onto Earth's surface. That doesn't answer my question. If it's in the cone of the volcano, it's not under the crust, nor is it on the surface, so I'm gonna call it lava. Feel free to let me know if I'm wrong. No amount of blue dots saves Ori from lava. No amount of green dots saves Ori from lava. There are only 2 abilities that help against lava, air dash and triple jump. Those give Ori a couple additional movement options. Air dash allows me to dash over pools of lava, and triple jump gives me 1 more oomph to get out of a tricky situation. I unlocked those abilities, but I unlocked those abilities a while ago. In terms of avoiding instant death caused by lava, all of the preparation leading up to this dungeon boils down to those 2 abilities and the skills, including dash and light burst, that I've collected along the way. Mount Horu consists of a big center room with 4 rooms on the left and 4 rooms on the right. Each of these rooms has dangers that could kill me instantly. This is a nightmare dungeon for the final dungeon on a Deathless run. Even though all of the rooms are dangerous, there are 2 which are a notch above the rest. Let's watch the first of those with my live commentary. This room, oh gosh. This room is highly dangerous. Remember how this room works. I want to hop from each one. Oh gosh, I got hit by the... I got hit on the spikes there. Okay. Enemy needs to shoot me. Great. That is one place where I could have easily died. Oh my gosh. That room has my heart racing. It's still dangerous on the way back, but it's not as dangerous. That was one of two rooms I said was a notch above the rest. Let's watch the other one with my live commentary. And this is the room I'm most scared about. I've done it successfully before, though, on the first try. One of my runs, I did this successfully on the first try. And I do have dash, which makes this a little bit easier. Let's just take the slow way down. I want this enemy gone. Ooh. Now. Let's go. Really hope I don't die. Now, I'm going to go to this first one. We're going to charge jump. Then we're going to dash. Then we're bashing off of everything. Stay a little bit higher up than you think. Great. I have not died in this room yet. There's still danger, though. That was the part that I was most worried about. This part down here I'm not as worried about, but it's still a dangerous part. Okay, this is a safe spot, except for that it's hot, so you have to keep jumping. Now, oh gosh. No! No! I was so close. I was so close. After that lava jet windmill, there isn't much left in the game. There is an easy mini-boss and an escape from Kuro scene. Just minutes away from beating this challenge on my second attempt. The rest of the footage in this video is from my third attempt at this challenge, which was not live. And while it plays in the background, I'm going to say some final thoughts about this game and this series. Before I embarked on my journey to complete a Deathless challenge in this game, I was very concerned. Ori and the Blind Forest is ruthless and unforgiving with the many instances of immediate death dangers, especially near the end of the game in Mount Horu. I was worried that I wouldn't complete this challenge before this video came out. However, when I actually played through the challenge, I almost beat it on my second attempt while playing live. Then on my third attempt, I sped through most of the game, really only slowing down in the Blackroot Burrows, the Forlorn Ruins, and Mount Horu. And as you will see soon in this video, I won on my third attempt. So if you've played Ori and the Blind Forest and felt that this challenge was too daunting to try, I encourage you to attempt it. It might not be as difficult as you and I imagined. And here is, in no particular order, some of my favorite things about Ori and the Blind Forest. First, you can't play this game and not notice how beautiful it is. The way that Ori moves is smooth and fluid and fast. The backgrounds are breathtaking, and in most adventures, platformers, and Metroidvania games, the spaces between the platforms that you can't go look like the void. There's nothing there. But in this game, below the platforms is forest. You get the idea that the spaces you can't go are filled with lush, thick, impassable vegetation rather than with nothingness. Also, the sound design, both the music and the effects, are very nice. I would happily listen to the music on its own. Ori and the Blind Forest also clearly communicates when you have completed, 100%ed some aspect of the game, which is great. As a collector and completionist, it is very nice to know definitively that I've completed something. And the challenges that the game presents, the Deathless run, hard difficulty, and the no abilities challenge, are all interesting ways to keep playing after your first playthrough. I appreciate when developers and designers add those challenges that extend the life of the game in interesting and difficult ways. I like how the antagonist of the game is completely unbeatable. There is nothing that Ori can do to defeat Kuro, which means you have to run. You have to get away. In the gameplay, at the end of every dungeon, there isn't a fight, there is an escape sequence, which is great in a game where the abilities and skills and what you, the player, have learned how to do is movement. So much of the gameplay is about movement, and it stays true to that in your run-ins with the antagonist. And I have to pause in my praise of this game to point out that I just did it. I won. I defeated the Deathless challenge of Ori and the Blind Forest on my 3rd try. That earns me the Immortal and the Unhinged achievements, the last 2 in the game. The story isn't about defeating Kuro or defeating Gumo. It's about winning them over with kindness. I sort of already mentioned it there, but I like how the upgrades you unlock in the game are about movement. You get movement abilities. As I said earlier, this is my last playthrough video for Ori and the Blind Forest. Although this wasn't the first series that I started on this channel, it is the first that I'm retiring. It is definitely a moment for my channel. However, even though my Ori and the Blind Forest series ends here, I'm planning to start up next week with Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which will be a blind playthrough. So I'm not done with Ori, I'm just done with the first game. And I guess what's left for me to talk about is what I did not like in this game, what I'm hoping to see different in the sequel. And I'll start with achievements. I didn't hate all of the achievements, but I hated a couple of them, and some of the other ones were not hateful, but just not the best design. Also, I wish it was possible to skip all of the cutscenes. I don't understand why there are some that can be skipped, and others that can't. It's a small gripe though, one that I only encountered because I played through the game 4 times. The collectibles in this game. I hate to talk negatively about collectibles, but you have to put space between them in order for the rush of collecting a new thing to count. Especially at the beginning of this game, you collect too many different things too quickly. And even near the end, when I went back through to collect the rest of the life cells and ability cells and whatnot, it just went by so fast. Part of that is most of the collectibles are not hard to get. They're just sitting there in the world, and if you have the right ability, you can simply go pick them up. And part of it is because the game tells you where all of the collectibles are. I like it when there is a hint about something you'd want to get, but this game just puts a marker on the map, exactly where the collectible is. And I'll say, this complaint is not true for all of them. Some are actually hard to get or hard to find. The money eggs, the blue containers that you can blow up, are hidden and the game never tells you where they are. Some of that last complaint comes from a lot of things to collect in a game that is somewhat short, and the game does feel short. That's something that I have a lot of hope is not true in the next game. I think the next game will be a longer game because it's the sequel to this game. Anyway, I'm done with the negatives. I highly enjoyed this game, and I hope you also enjoyed my series playing through. And come back for the next one, starting next Saturday.